Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Tony and I am super excited today to make this video because Grandstream's upcoming GCC firmware, which is now in beta, I believe it's version 1.0.7.5, we'll check on that. It's releasing new features to the GCC Firewall that I've been asking for the longest time. They're going to be adding the ability to clone rules. Now I've been asking for the ability to duplicate rules. Same thing. And they're adding the ability to create IP groups. Again, I've been asking for that for months now. So Grandstream listens to their customers and their clients. I'm super excited to make this video. So what I want to do today in this video for you is to show you the firewall rules, the existing way they're made now. And it's a little long in the tooth, and you'll see why these new updates to the firewall are going to streamline things tremendously. It's a major step, definitely in the right direction. So we're going to actually do the upgrade now during this video as well, but I want to switch over to the computer and we are going to take a look at the Grandstream firewall. So the existing firewall, if we come over to the firewall tab, firewall policies, traffic rules, and I'm going to just make it a little easier to see. I'm going to come over to my IoT network. I have three rules here: protect RFC 192, protect RFC 172, and protect RFC 10. And basically, if we take a look inside one of those rules, what I'm really saying here is I want the IoT network to not be able to access my main LAN. So the 192 private addresses, we're going to have the IoT blocked from accessing 192.168.0.0/16. You can see the action is to drop. Now, notice up here, currently in the existing firmware, the latest stable release, there's no ability to duplicate or clone this rule. It's just add or delete rules. If I wanted to recreate, well, not wanted to, but I had to recreate that same rule again for the 172 and then again for the private 10 address range. So it would have been really nice at the time where I made these rules if I would have been able to just select this one, duplicate it, and then just go in and modify the rule and then do it a third time for the private 10 address range. But that wasn't the case, so I had to create all three rules from scratch. So that's that. So what I want to show you now is we're going to take you out to Grandstream's website, and I'm already there. And if you look here under the GCC firmware, the current is 1.0.5.11, but the firmware that's in beta that's going to update this firewall is 1.0.7.5, so I was correct. Let's take a look for real quick. Here's the release notes, and I already have the release notes downloaded to my computer. If we're going to take a look at some of the firmware updates, let's see. It's allowing bridge mode for on the WAN side, which is nice. It's optimizing some of the other features that it's adding. It's optimizing the static IP binding. So I'm going to take a look at that. But it also added wizards for setup wizards for WireGuard, IPsec, OpenVPN, PPTP, and L2TP. So that was not in. This is not in the existing version either. But again, what I'm super excited about is the firewall rules. So I'm going to put a link to this document down in the video description. It's where you could read more about all the updates that are coming in the beta. But to download the firmware, simply just come here and you have a couple options. Since the GCC is a combined router and PBX, you can download the router firmware here and the PBX firmware here separately, or you can download it in combined full firmware update. And the same thing for the beta. If you come over to the beta side, you can download the firmware file just for the router, just for the PBX, or the full version. So I've already downloaded this. So what we're going to do now is we're going to jump back over to the GCC. I'm going to come over to the main tab. We're going to come to maintenance, and I'm going to go to backup and restore. And the first thing I'm going to do is create a backup, a current backup of this system. Okay, now that the backup is created, and here it is right here, 430, we're going to go ahead and download it to my local computer. And I've already, just to keep this video flowing, I've already downloaded the full combined beta firmware upgrade. So now we're going to come over to upgrade, and we are going to say, you have your options here just to upload the system firmware bin file or the PBX firmware bin file. We are going to upload the system and PBX firmware bin file. So we're going to click on upload, and it is on my desktop. We're going to go ahead and upload this. So what's going to happen now is while this is uploading, then it's going to upgrade. The router is going to end up restarting itself. So we'll come back to the updated version of the GCC, and then I will take you into the firewall rules and show you the major advancements to the GCC firewall. So we'll be right back in a few minutes. Okay, so it took a little bit for the firmware file to be successfully uploaded, and now as you can see here, the firmware is being installed and it's just asking us to wait. So again, once this is done, my assumption is the GCC will reboot and then we'll be able to log back in. Okay, so the GCC did reboot after the firmware update was installed. We, in fact, are running the beta firmware now, 1.0.7.5. I'm signed back into the GCC. It seems like the upgrade went well, and I'm back on the firewall tab. So now let's go into the firewall policy, and let's go into the traffic rules. And for argument's sake, I'm going to go back to the IoT VLAN just to make things easier to see on the screen. So these are the rules that I had before. Here are the three individual private address rules. So now, if you notice here, in addition to add and delete, which was what we had before, we now have two more options, clone and move to top. So whereas before I had to create each one of these rules individually, now if I select one of the rules, you can see I have the ability to clone it. And there's the cloned rule, and then I could just go in now and modify the parameters, which is outstanding. Thank you, GrandStream, for adding this ability to clone or duplicate rules. So let me just delete that rule real quick. And the other thing they added was the IP groups, IP address groups. So let me show you how that works now. So again, I had to create three separate rules, whereas with the ability now to create IP address groups, I could still achieve what each of these three rules are achieving with one rule. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if we come up to add, and I'm just going to call this test private addresses. We want to make sure it's enabled. We want the protocol type to be all. We want the source group, again, to be on the IoT interface because we want to block the IoT network from accessing those private IP ranges. And then we're going to come down to destination, address type, and now you see we have a drop down here. I'm going to select IPv4 address group. And then under the destination address, I would select the group, but I don't have any groups created. So it gives us the option to go ahead and create that IPv4 address group. So let's click on add group, and I'm going to give it a name, and I'll call this test RFC. And now we're going to add our address ranges to the group. So we're going to call this RFC 192. And you got three types here, an IP address, and the mask, or an IP address range. So we're going to go for the actual subnet. So 192.168.0.0, and then the subnet mask is 16, and we're going to say save. We're going to add the 172, so we'll call this RFC 172, And again, we want the entire subnet option. And this is /12. And then finally, we want to add the 10 range. So we'll call this RFC 10. And again, the naming is optional. This is just what works for me. It's easy for me to identify. You can name it whatever's easiest for you. And again, we want the subnet option, and we're going to go 10.0.0.0, and this will be /8. And we're going to say save. Okay, so now we've defined the 3 subnets in the group. So we're going to go ahead and say save. And now back to the actual rule. You could see here under the selection for destination address, there's the group now that contains all 3 subnets. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to say action drop. We're going to say save. And now you can see here, I have one rule that has the group, the destination is the group that contains all 3 of these subnets here. So this one rule, number 5, is taking the place of Rule 2, Rule 3, and Rule 4. So theoretically, I can go ahead and delete these 3 now because I have it here in one rule, and that is awesome. Again, thank you, GrandStream, for doing that. So that's the main gist of what I wanted to show in this video. Again, there are other options that the beta firmware, hopefully soon to be released as a stable version, will be bringing to the GCC. Wizards for the VPN options, being able to bridge mode the WAN side, which is good. And there's a whole bunch of other upgrades coming in that firmware upgrade. So I will put a link to that document down below so you can read up on the rest of the upgrades coming to the GCC at your leisure. Anyway, my name is Tony with Quick Tech Solutions, and I hope you enjoyed this. I am certainly thrilled with this new firmware upgrade, and that's about it for now. Take care.